It's September 2024 and I'm boarding a hovercraft, which means there can only be one place I can be heading to, the Isle of Wight. I'm heading to the Victorian seaside resort of Sandown, located at the top of a sweeping Sandown Bay that accounts for most of the southeastern coastline of the island. And the journey to get to Sandown is part of the adventure, involving, as I've chosen, a hovercraft and an open-top bus combination that simply doesn't exist anywhere else on the planet. As of the autumn of 2024, the Isle of Wight is still the only place on the planet with a year-round hovercraft service, linking Southsea near Portsmouth on the Hampshire coast with Ryde on the Isle of Wight, though winter-only hovercraft services are still available in Estonia. Whilst the standard car ferry takes 45 minutes to cross the 7 miles from Portsmouth to Fishbourne, and the fast catamarans take 22 minutes to cross for just over 5 miles from Portsmouth Harbour to the end of Ryde Pier, still a near half-mile walk to land, the hovercraft whisks you from beach to beach, irrespective of height of tide, over its 5-mile journey in less than 10 minutes. The first commercial hovercraft was the SR.N1, developed by Saunders Roe at their base in Cowes on the Isle of Wight. So to some extent, it's only fitting that the island is still home to the service, which first took flight across the Solent in 1965, with a current fleet of 2 new hovercraft being commissioned in 2016, and high loadings even mid-afternoon on a Friday, ensuring a healthy future at present for the service. After arriving in Ryde, it's a very quick walk over the footbridge over the island's railway line, closed for engineering works when I visited, and into the bus station where I picked up the waiting open-top Downs Breezer bus for a journey up and over the downs of the Isle of Wight. The unique chalk downlands that form a significant proportion of southern England, most famous for the White Cliffs of Dover, cover a fair amount of the Isle of Wight as well, with the Needles chalk stacks over on the western side of the island being their most famous display. It means a larger part of the interior of the island has the same green rolling grasslands and low woods associated with the southern home counties, and a drive across the heartland of the island you could well be in Sussex or Kent. Heading out from Ryde, the Down Breezer heads along the north coast of the island past Fishbourne and its slow chugging ferries before heading inland at Wootton and a slow climb up onto the top of Areton Down. The 29.77 hectares of the Down are a site of special scientific interest, originally designated in 1979. The Down is a hotspot for several species of butterfly, as well as many birds, including kestrels, buzzards, and at night, barn owls. An important Bronze Age hoard was found on the Down in the 18th century, which, naturally, is not on display on the island, instead being housed in the British Museum in London. Areton Down leads on to the larger Brading Down, which along with the neighbouring Culver Down form a long ridge of hills that protect Sandown Bay from the north and west. From up here, there are views down onto Sandown Bay and resorts at Sandown, Lake and Shanklin, and on a clear day back across the waters for Solent to the city of Portsmouth and its distinctive Spinnaker Tower, and just on the horizon, the chalk ridge of a camp down, mirroring its white cousins. The Down is home to an ancient field system, likely to be of Iron Age or Roman heritage, and highlighting the last time the fields were ploughed. From the Downs breezer descends into Sandown and, thanks to roadworks, took a diversion to bring us into town along the start of the long sandy bay. Sandown Bay extends for 8.5 miles from Yeatherland at the northern edge through the towns of Sandown, Lake and then Shanklin to the end just beyond Shanklin at the village of Luckham, where the St Boniface Down protects the southern edge of the bay and is also home to the highest point in the island at 791 foot. Given its location and easy access to the sea, it's likely the area where modern Sandown sits has been inhabited for a long time, with some evidence of pre-Roman settlement. During the Roman occupation of what they called Vectis, Sandown was a site of salt production. Up until the early 19th century, the whole of Sandown Bay was an important military site, mostly due to the wide sandy bays being considered a vulnerable landing spot, which would make it easy for invaders from the continent to set up a foothold on the island to potentially use it as a base for an invasion of England. Although the main invasion that took place on the island in 1545 was undertaken by the French, who landed on Whitecliff Bay and had to march up and over Culver Down before being repelled by a garrison that was still under construction, Sandown Castle. The castle itself was built too close to the sea and suffered from erosion, siding for less than 100 years before it was demolished. In the 1860s, 5 Palmerston forts were built along the coast, with one, Granite Fort, also known as Sandown Fort, at Yeatherland, now home to the Wild Heart Animal Sanctuary. The railway arrived in Sandown in 1864 and, combined with the town's safe bathing waters, led to the town becoming increasingly popular as a seaside resort. In 1874, the Crown Prince Frederick and Princess Victoria of Germany, their family and entourage took a holiday in Sandown, including regular dips in the bay. The town's pier opened just a couple of years later in May 1878 and was extended in 1895. The town soon became a fashionable English seaside resort favoured by all classes, with large numbers of hotels and guest houses. Though, as with so many English seaside resorts, the less than reliable English summer weather, combined with cheap package deals to the guaranteed sun of the Spanish costas, spelt the beginning of a decline for the town. Today, the town still has the pier, the only surviving pleasure pier on the island, the amusements, the sand and the rock shops of an English seaside town, and with a Premier Inn opening up in the early 2020s, despite everything else that was going on in the early 2020s, the town is still busy. However, the burnt-out remains of several of the older, larger Victorian hotels tell of a town that has suffered from a serious decline in the past and a pressing need for renewal and restoration. One of the attractions of the Isle of Wight is the stereotype that it's somehow trapped in a time warp, and that on the islands it's still the 50s. Most people would think that means the 1950s, but in one part of Brading, just over a mile from Sandown Pier, it actually means the 150s. In 1879, Mr. Munns, the farmer, struck a mosaic floor whilst he was making holes on his land for a sheep pen. Luckily for Mr. Munns, one Captain Thorpe of Yarbridge was in the area looking for Roman antiquities, and he helped to uncover the first of the many mosaics of the site the following day. By the spring of 1880, all of the site of Mr. Munn's land had been excavated, revealing half of a Roman villa. With the support of a neighbouring landowner, Lady Louisa Oglander, the rest of the site was soon excavated, with Lady Louisa purchasing Mr. Munn's land to bring the whole of the land the villa occupied into single ownership. The Oglander estate opened the site to the public and ran it for many years before passing it over to a charitable trust in 1994. In 2004, the visitor centre was replaced by the current building, which keeps the mosaics under cover, as well as providing museum space, an educational centre, plus, almost more essential than all the rest, a cafe and gift shop. The Second August Legion under Vespasian conquered the Isle of Wight in 44 AD, the year after the first part of the conquest of Britain had begun in what is now Kent and Essex. The Romans named the island Vectis, and sometime after the initial invasion, work started on the villa, with the first simple villa on the site dating from the mid-1st century. But over the next 100 years, to about 150 AD, it developed into a large and impressive stone-built villa around three sides of a central courtyard. In keeping with high Roman society, its rooms were richly decorated with complex and expensive mosaics. The villa suffered a damaging fire sometime in the 3rd century, resulting in the site being downgraded to farming purposes for about another 100 years. By 340 AD, the south of Britain, including the Isle of Wight, was suffering from frequent pirate raids, and despite it only being used for farming, the villa at Brading was still a target for these. Left as just a space for storing grain, the building finally collapsed sometime in the 5th century. The area was abandoned for an unknown length of time, but certainly long enough for the undergrowth and soil depth to have built up enough that when the land started to be used again for agriculture, there was no knowledge that Brading Villa had existed, and the tools of the day didn't cut down far enough to disturb the fabric of the building. It means that today all 12 rooms of the ground floor of the villa survive, with the floor plan clearly laid out, and in most cases the mosaics in good condition, though centuries of tree roots have rendered some damage in places. The Roman villa sits in very picturesque surroundings, with views out to the Solent, and behind the site the steep slope up onto Brading Down. Brading Down Lookout Point is barely 500 yards from the villa, but it's also 225 feet above it, which makes the walk between the two a stiff 25-minute zigzag hike up the side of the down. Though the strenuous climb is worth it for the views from up here, with the spine of the south of the island made up of Compton, Gillerton and St Boniface Downs clearly visible before they reach the Solent, and then on round to Culver Down. Back down in Sandown on the edge of town is that 1860s granite fort. Commissioned in 1859, construction on the fort began in 1861 and was completed by September 1864. It is referred to as both Sandown and Granite Fort. The forts never saw any active combat and were decommissioned and sold in 1930, but in World War II the fort was brought back into use as it played a significant role in the D-Day landings, as it housed more than a dozen pumps for the Pluto operation, Pluto standing for Pipeline Under the Ocean, the operation to keep the Allied forces supplied with fuel as they fought their way out of Normandy and across Europe. After the war, the fort passed into the hands of the Sandown Zoo. The zoo was originally established on the site in the 1950s, first as the Sandown Zoo before being renamed in the 1970s the Isle of Wight Zoo. However, by this time it had fallen into disrepair, and the Sunday Times dubbed it the Slum Zoo of Britain. In 1976, the zoo was taken over by new owner Jack Corney, who turned the zoo around, rebuilding it as a sanctuary for big cats and primates. Jack died in 2003, at which point the zoo passed to his daughter, Charlotte. In 2017, Charlotte established the Wild Heart Trust, turning the zoo into a charity and subsequently renaming the Wild Heart Animal Sanctuary in 2021. The zoo is home to an eclectic range of animals, from wallabies and trash pandas, raccoons, to skunks, confiscated ex-pets that only arrived at the sanctuary a few weeks before I visited, and the perennial family zoo favourites of lemurs. Oh, and meerkats. There's always meerkats. But its primary role is that of a big cat sanctuary, looking after lions, tigers, lynx and servals. The most famous of the big cats looked after by the sanctuary are its tigers. In May 2007, the then Isle of Wight Zoo was featured in a 2-series ITV programme called Tiger Island that showed different aspects of the zoo, including the designing of new enclosures. Today, the sanctuary is home to 4 female tigers. Natasha and Zorpa came to the sanctuary in 2018 after they were rescued from a travelling circus in Spain. Softy and Toph are relatively new additions, arriving in 2023, having endured pretty terrible lives beforehand. Bred in captivity in Italy, in October 2019 they were found in small crates in the back of a horse box on the Belarusian border en route to Russia. Starving, dehydrated and covered in excrement, it's unlikely they would have survived much further into their journey. Rescued by the Animal Advocacy and Protection Centre, they were rehabilitated at a sanctuary in Spain before being transferred to the island. Alongside the tigers, there are 4 lions. The first 2 are a pair of non-breeding white lions called Casper and Frosty. The white lion is a result of a rare colour mutation, specifically in the South African lion, which leads the lion to have blonde or almost white fur. In the case of Casper and Frosty, they were both originally at West Midlands Safari Park in Bewdley, Worcestershire, but a change in the makeup of the pride there put Casper at risk, so it was decided to relocate him to the Isle of Wight, and at the same time Frosty came with him to be a companion on the island. The last 2 lions are brothers Vigo and Kumba. Originally bred for a travelling circus in Spain, both of the cubs were castrated before they turned 1 year old, in the belief that a castrated male lion is less of a risk of aggression. Just to make sure they didn't cause problems, the circus also removed their front claws, a barbaric practice that prevents the lions from ever being able to be released into the wild. Because of the castration, the lions will never grow manes, as their hair growth is linked to testosterone released, but it also means they grow to be much larger than non-castrated males. The sheer size of these majestic beasts is on full display at feeding time.
Look, that's the other tiger. That's the other tiger. He's got it.
He will sit somewhere, but you can see him. Oh, there he is. Hello, Vigo.
Bigger, that's bigger.
These guys are very cute.
Sandown is served by the Southern Vectis number 2 and 3 bus routes that combined link to Ryde every 15 minutes, taking about half an hour to make the journey. From Ryde, Whitelink catamarans run to a pier at the end of Portsmouth Harbour Station, taking about 25 minutes to make the journey, though there is a half-mile walk down Ryde Pier to get to the landing stage. Hover Travel Hovercraft run from the Hoverport by the bus station in Ryde to the Hoverport in Southsea, taking less than 10 minutes to make the crossing. The Hoverbus connects with the Hovercraft to take you to Portsmouth and Southsea Station. Both Southern and South Western Railway run services to Portsmouth and Southsea and on to Portsmouth Harbour, with Southern taking just over 2 hours from London Victoria via Gatwick Airport and Horsham, and South Western Railway taking about an hour and 3/4 from Waterloo via Woking and Guildford. Gatwick Airport to Portsmouth is 90 minutes by direct train every half hour and is the UK's second busiest airport, a hub for EasyJet and with direct connections to Europe, Africa, Asia and North America.